Here transmission, but there isn't really a transmission. It's a sealed gearbox that is never serviced, at least in my car. It's just a reduction gear that is part of the motor, and that increases the torque for the motor. So they're simple. There's no oil to change. You save money. No transmission. I just had transmission trouble. There's no explosions, and a giant battery sends electricity to an electric motor. So you have a fan. You have a complex machine from 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. They had dreaded engine light, check engine light. How many people have had a check engine light come on? Mine comes on daily. It's mostly emissions, so you've got all these sensors that are like $200 to $500 each to replace. There's a gas tank, and they tell you in the wintertime, in cold climates, to keep that gas tank half full because condensation gets in there, and the condensation in the gas tank can clog the fuel line and the fuel filter. So these are things that electric cars do not have: spark plugs, alternators, gas tanks, timing belts, transmissions, O2 sensors, mufflers, catalytic converters, air filters, fuel pumps. All these things can go wrong or need to be replaced after a while. At 100,000 kilometers, I would be expecting to do my timing belt and a bunch of other things. Not going to happen, don't have them. Okay, so electric cars are simple. They require very little maintenance compared to combustion cars. They're more reliable, and they always work. Both vehicles have brakes. You don't use them very much in an electric car because you have what's called regenerative braking. That uses the motor in reverse, so you gain back from the kinetic energy you used to take off and start driving. You gain some of that back through regenerative braking. It charges up the battery as you come to a stop at a stoplight. That's one of the reasons why driving in the city is more fuel efficient than driving on the highway. It's actually the reverse of combustion vehicle. So, this was in the news the other day. A Tesla Model S has reached 1 million kilometers. It did have some problems early on, and Tesla replaced them because it was the first Model S that they had ever made. But it's done 660,000 kilometers on the same battery and motor, and it's going strong. And Tesla has announced that they will have a battery soon that will last 1.6 million kilometers, or 1 million miles. How long does your car last? Heating the electric car's cabin. In a combustion vehicle, you're using waste heat from the friction. The metal rubs against metal. You have oil to reduce that friction. It heats up the fluid, which keeps the car cool. Goes through, the antifreeze will get hot and boiling, and it'll go through a little radiator in your cabin. A fan will blow wind through that, you'll get warm. It takes a while to heat up. An electric car that heats instantly. It's basically a whole bunch of thousands of watts of electricity working on the heater. You can heat up your car in your living room. You're not going to die. It's not suicide if you wanted to do that. It's time for random electric vehicle facts. This is to spice up the presentation in case you're getting bored. There is coffee. This is where I fell asleep this afternoon, so don't blame anyone. Just go get some coffee. Gas vehicles are more fuel efficient on the highway, as I just said, than in stop-and-go traffic. Electric vehicles are far more fuel efficient in stop-and-go traffic because they are just designed for stop-and-go traffic, and then they recuperate some of their electricity. A lower range EV such as mine, which is out of date now and not really found too much anymore, could power a Canadian home for 2 days. This is called vehicle to grid. SAS Power does not allow this because they're not really with the times. In fact, I don't think it's only happening in Japan right now. But this is going to be a big deal if people keep driving cars and they are electric. It's going to balance the electrical grid. You're going to be able to store solar. You're going to be able to make money off of it in peak times and sell it back to the grid just by plugging your car in at home. So this is what Nissan has with my old Nissan Leaf. They have this big dookie machine here which will charge your home in a power outage, which is handy in Saskatchewan. If it's minus 42 and your power goes out, you might want to power your furnace fan. So even this old car will do 2 days. I have a Tesla, probably a week, to power your home for a week. So this is something that electric cars, it's like a portable battery pack that you can use for backup, like a backup generator. The density of these battery packs is improving, like I said. And like I said, they can cost nearly half the car, but they're becoming cheaper already. This is the cost curve. This is Tony Siva. I recommend you Google him and watch his presentation. They're coming way down in price. You see that curve? It's set to continue to 2030. So right now, we're starting to see it become the same price as a combustion car. And it's not a one-to-one comparison, okay? Anyone who's driven an electric car, you know how when you buy a luxury vehicle, they make it very quiet. My Acura is luxury, and it's got insulation for sound everywhere when you're trying to get a fuse or something. It's made to be quiet. They go to great lengths and great expense to make the vehicle quiet. My cheap-ass electric hatchback is quieter than any luxury combustion vehicle. So you have the luxury, you have that smoothness, you have a quality of ride, and it just is a joy to drive. All other electric vehicle owners will tell you, and they're here tonight to tell you, by the way, that they are a joy to drive. So here's some of the other cars, and if you want to see how things are improving, a couple of years ago, Hyundai came out with the Ioniq, and they had 200 kilometers range. A couple of years later, 275. Same car, better battery. So these things are improving quickly. This is the cost of ownership of an electric car with a Toyota Camry. I think Camry is literally the most popular car in the world, sales-wise. So this is the United States. You can see it's in gallons, and they don't have the tax credit that we do. And so if you look at it, if you crunch the numbers, and I'm not an accountant, but I will crunch the numbers when I want something to sell to my wife. I'll do the numbers, and you can see over 5 years, it's cheaper to buy a Model S, and a Model S and a Camry is not comparable. It's like comparing the latest iPhone with an 8-track tape that you pulled out of a sedan from a junkyard from 1970. They're two different things. The Model S drives like a sports car on rails, and it is luxury and it is high tech, okay? There's not a comparison. So why would you buy a Toyota Camry when you can buy a Model S and save money? You have a far better car. You need to test drive them. You need to talk to people if you're interested in buying a car. And the electric vehicle community here in Saskatchewan will let you do that. So this is the Canadian version. And you can see I adjusted this graph, and it's even more extreme. Once you factor in a larger Canadian incentive and the fact that our gas is a lot more expensive than Americans. So batteries have 8 to 10 year warranties. Mine's still under warranty. I have a very old car. My battery's still under warranty. Battery costs have declined by 85%, and they're forecast to decline by another 50%, according to Bloomer, which is always underestimating things. I occasionally go to the gas station to use a squeegee, which is weird.
I've done it too,
I get one at
James.
home. I install a squeegee thing at home. I own a little gas station. I sell cigarettes too. This is part 2B, a list of my problems. Let me just take a drink. Yes, I have a number of grievances. So this is the problems that I've had in cars. I've had a timing belt replaced for $900. Electric cars don't have timing belts. Nothing to time, nothing to belt. Fuel pump, no fuel to pump. $1,700. Twice I had to do this in the same damn car. It's horrible. Electric cars don't have fuel pumps. They don't have spark plugs. Tow truck driver said it's just too cold out to make fire. That's what he told me one time when I was in my 20s. Electric cars don't make fire. They don't explode flammable liquids, and they don't require filtered air to mix, and there's no fuel hood to clog. Transmission repair, don't even get me started on that. I tow things, transmissions break. Electric cars are a dream to use for towing because they have 100% of their torque from zero. When you tow something, you have to use a higher gear and run at a higher RPM in your SUV or truck. And you have to find that RPM that has the most torque so that you're not stressing your transmission. You have 100% of your torque from zero in any electric car, even a crappiest electric car out there. As the woman said in the video, they go faster. And I'll confess to you people tonight, my friends, that I drag race people at stoplights just to embarrass them. We're talking idiots in Corvettes and you know, teenagers with loud sports cars that have amplified their muffler to sound cool, and they don't hear me at all when I leave them in my desk. I shouldn't, there's no police officers here tonight, is there? I just can't help myself. I have to replace my tires because I burn rubber. It's a front wheel drive, but I can't even imagine if I had an actual electric car from modern times, they would be very, very fast. And I'm not a teenager, I'm not trying to go run around, but it is a pleasure to merge with an electric car because it goes fast and it's like taking off in the space shuttle. So yeah, I've had O2 sensors. Sometimes they can't be fixed, they're replaced. I have no O2 sense in an electric car. I had a flywheel that sent one of my beautiful brown cars to the graveyard once. But no, they're not complex. Look at all those parts. And look at the battery. It's not the same as your battery in your laptop. They're different, okay? They're not allowed to like actually ever get to 0% charge, which can damage your battery. Your cell phone and your laptop can do that. They're not allowed to charge to an actual 100%. There's some buffer in between. And they're managed by a computer to make sure that they are happy all the time and that they last. I read something recently, people with Teslas are making all their data available for battery degradation. And basically, if the normal amount that American drives, which is 12,000 miles a year, they will last 23 years. And even then, that beautiful Tesla will have 70% of its battery or 80% of its battery. And that's still a useful car for a high school student. You know, a 23-year-old car is going to be pretty cool, and it's not going to cost you anything to drive. So this is a cell. When you worry about a battery going in an electric car, it's not one big battery, it's a whole bunch of cells. I don't know what to compare it to, but it's basically like a big hard drive from a computer, each cell, some of them, depends on the car. Nissan is taking wrecked cells, and they're going into the mountains where they can't put electricity because everything's rock. So they'll put these solar lights, street lights, in remote mountain places in Japan and use one cell from an electric car like Nissan Leaf so it's giving a second life. So we've come to the reality check. There must be some downsides to driving an electric car in winter, right? I see some cynics in the crowd. Actually, I can't see anything. It's all dark, you know, just figures. But the elephant in the room is, well, there's one problem with electric vehicles, and it's easily solvable. Your range goes down in the wintertime. And sometimes, in extreme cases, in some of the cars, it goes down to almost 50%, mostly 40%, sometimes 35% less range in the wintertime. Then you say, well, that's terrible. But would you complain if you had a smaller gas tank in the wintertime? The fact is, it's not that big of a problem because you have more range than you need in Regina, and you start with a full tank of gas every morning. I've never found it to be a problem. So, it's all solved because the batteries are getting cheaper, they're also getting bigger. So if they're getting bigger, then Canadians like us, who live in the worst place in the world for weather, in my opinion, will not have a problem. We'll just buy a car with a bigger battery. That's the solution. Buy a car with a bigger battery than you need, and then is advertised, and it'll work fine. And by the way, electric cars, you may have gotten it from the video, they work like it's a warm summer day. If it's minus 40 degrees, they work the same way. They don't chug, they don't complain, they don't make noises. They work like it's a summer day, 20 degrees. So it's quite nice. So here's what happens. In a combustion car, you're also losing range in the wintertime. But because it's a combustion car, you don't care, right? Because you've got so much range. A lot of electric cars that have been out thus far have short range, so it affects you. So you can lose up to 25% of your range in a combustion car. You typically might have 700 kilometers range. You lose 15% for rolling resistance. That is the resistance of your tire hitting the road. There might be ice slush. Your tire might be softer because the air is may not be keeping your pressure in your tires up. 7% just from them putting antifreeze in the gas, which is a lot. I don't know if you know that. 7% of your range is reduced in a gas car just from the antifreeze, which they switch to in the wintertime. 2% for warming up the engine, because you have to start the car to warm up the engine for a little while. In an electric car, you lose about 15% for rolling resistance and slush, same as a gas car. You lose about 20% or more for a big 6,000 watt heater in your car to make it warm, because you're not using waste heat from anything, because there's no engine with friction with waste heat. You're losing 5 to 50% of the battery because it's colder. So your battery getting cold doesn't hold as much energy, but it's mostly a combination of things. I did have one transition in my slides. There it is. Thank you. People ask me if I had transitions. It's very complex, the slideshow business. So yeah, if you have an electric car, the top electric cars you can buy today has 600 kilometers range. The longest trip in Regina round trip is 39 kilometers, just to give you an idea. If you were going, then electric cars, people who buy electric cars who aren't geeks like me are the people who have long commutes, especially in Ontario, but then they don't realize that in the winter you have less range. So some of them are running into problems. But if you went to Balgonie, it'd be 61 kilometers. If you went to Regina Beach, it'd be 110 kilometers return, 141 if you went to Moose Jaw and back. And a Tesla Model 3 has 360 kilometers range in the winter, I estimate. So that's plenty. That's twice as much as you need. So it's not a problem. And it's only going to get less of a problem as the cars improve with bigger batteries. This is the Nissan Leaf. This is the mileage goes down at different temperatures, and it uses heat differently. I won't get into that, won't bother. Charging, as I said, heats the battery. Tesla, see this little blue part here? That's saying the battery's there, and it has that much charge in it, but you can't use it because it's cold. So it's showing you graphically that part of the battery is not being usable because it's cold out. Well, they can heat that battery now and precondition it, and that's only going to get better, especially with Tesla, who can do over-the-air updates. Let's review. We have a very complex system here, and a lot of things that have to happen for a combustion engine to work. And a car, an electric car, you're going to have a lot of simplicity involved, and a lot of reliability. Okay, I won't go over it all again. So this is what my car does. If you preheat it, this is how much energy you use from the cabin heater. It's not very much. If you don't preheat it, you use a lot more. So one of the solutions to losing range is you preheat your car. And you can do that with an app or just have it done automatically every morning. So if your cabin is already heated and your seats are hot, they're not minus 40, and your dash and your windows and your roof, everything is hot, then you're not going to use as much heat. So the heater works at a lower wattage. This is what my car manual says. It says that do not store the car at minus 25 or colder for more than a week. So my car can technically last a week without being plugged in minus 25 or colder weather. So yeah, like I said, I realized my battery heater has never come on. There's in my electric car, in other electric cars, you'll have, instead of an engine heat meter, you'll have one for a gauge for your battery. And my battery has never got below having 2 bars. So my battery heater has never come on because I think it comes on at 1 or less. So my battery has never got below minus 9 degrees Celsius. This is what I've determined in the 3 winters I have. And that's not because it's been heated, it's because it's never had that chance to cool down any colder than minus 9. And the operating temperature is minus 20 or warmer. So your electric car is always, even if my battery heater didn't exist, my car, because I use it regularly, would always work. There's a conception that EVs take a long time to charge. There's V3, version 3 of the Tesla superchargers. They're charging at the peak rate of 1,000 kilometers per hour. And we're getting some in Saskatchewan that are just about to open up. Correct me if they've opened today or something. They haven't? Okay. So they've announced 350. Porsche says they can do 350, and that's going to come. So soon charging on a highway. Now keep in mind, you're not going to fill your tank to the brim. You can't do that in an electric car. You can only go to about 80% because the charging rate to keep the battery happy is very slow, between 80 and 100. So you're really only topping up your battery to 80% on the highway, And you're doing that at a very fast rate, which can be hard on the battery. So basically, in the time it takes to get a coffee, fix your underwear, go to the bathroom, you can charge your car very soon on the highway. That's not going to be a reason not to go electric. My advice to you, and I know we have a gentleman here who charges the 110 volts, I won't point him out. He does have a video camera holding so he'd have to tape the presentation. He's a cheap bastard. He's a good man, but he's cheap. He will not spend a couple of $1,000s to get a 240 volt line charged himself, but he will not be happy if you do that. Because you need lots of juice coming from your house to charge your car fast, and you need to heat that car and not use your battery to do it. If you are doing this at 110, you will use some of your battery to heat your car in the morning. You don't want to do that necessarily. Okay? So some cars will actually you buy the car with a lot of it, like come to your house and put a charger in. Charging does slow down. We're talking about the negatives of electric cars in winter. It can slow down in winter if the car is slow, but again, you're charging overnight. And there's plenty of time overnight to charge. And by the way, as cheap as it is to use an electric car now, if we do like a lot of other people are doing and getting smart meters installed, and they do it because the demand for electricity goes up when everybody comes home from work and school between 4 and 7 p.m. They charge a lot more for electricity at that time of day to discourage use so they don't have to build extra peaker plants for the power grid. And then overnight, they charge a fraction of the normal high rate of electricity. So electric cars, when we get a smart grid in Saskatchewan, if meters don't go on fire anymore, they'll actually cost even less to charge, perhaps half as much as they do now, because you charge them overnight on a timer that is built into all electric cars. Regenerative braking doesn't work very well in electric cars in the wintertime because your battery's close. It's the same reason that if you go to a supercharger on a highway, they don't charge as fast unless the car is heated. But usually if you're driving somewhere, by the time you get to Davidson, your battery will start to get warm anyway, or you can, at least in the case of a Tesla, heat it up, knowing that you're going to get there. So when you read newspaper articles, and there was a flood of them because of the polar vortex last winter, when they say EVs perform poorly in winter, they don't. It's actually the batteries have half the range. But I'm telling you, that's not a problem. Because batteries are getting bigger, and because most people use their cars in the city anyway. The cars themselves perform brilliantly in cold weather. Doesn't matter how cold it is, they will do it like it's 25 degrees out on a summer day. And of course, car washes cost more for the electric car owner, so you can feel sorry for all of your electric car owner friends because you don't get the $3 off when you fill up. I hope that changes soon. This is really unfair. Another transition. Bring forth the meaning of life, or why EVs are better than gas vehicles in winter. Well, I do go on, don't I? Well, EVs, you can heat up your car in a garage. You don't have to open the garage. You can heat it on the on the street, and no one will steal it because it's not turned on. Just the heater is turned on. So you will not die. You can turn on your car and heat it without even opening the garage door. Or like I said, in the living room. You can smoke while refueling. There's Sean Penn smoking while he refuels. Don't try that at home. EVs warm up pretty much instantly because you're turning on about 6 hair dryers. Cars take a long time to warm up. There they are. That's basically the heater of an electric car. When it's very cold, it's not using what a heat pump a lot of them have, which is like a reverse air conditioner. It's using resistive heating, which is like a toaster or a hair dryer. So there's all these things working very quickly. Yeah, so they're quieter, the smoother and the faster than a comparable car. And another advantage of electric vehicles in winter is that when you do have a 4-wheel drive, this is a Tesla Model X, which is a small mid-size SUV. It can tow 5,000 pounds normally, but in this case, it's towing a semi-trailer that got stuck on an icy incline. The reason is because the computer can get information and turn the wheels instantly. It doesn't have to filter it through fuel pumping into the engine and transmission. The electric motor adjusts each wheel instantly for the traction that you need.
It's working, I can't believe it.
Yeah, so they actually towed an airliner in Australia as well. The prototype of the Ford F-150 pickup truck towed a 9-pound train, or more than a 9-pound train, but that was on a straight track. So these are powerful vehicles, and they are not delicate. I would say a combustion engine is delicate. So yeah, you can, with your app on the Tesla, you can choose what seat to turn the heat on, you can choose what steering wheel to preheat, you can have it beep you when your cabin is a comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit. You could, and people do this, if you have a job, God bless you, you can plug into a 110 volt socket at work and get 40 kilometers of free gas every week. Your employer probably won't catch on. And so every day you get 40 kilometers, and yeah, in the winter time it would be half that probably. But, or the guy who hired me for this thing, he moved to Ottawa and he said, yeah, my new job, it's got car chargers everywhere because they're progressive. They're not Saskatchewan. Apartment tenants on the street, yeah, they've got a problem with electric cars because they can't charge at home. So we need municipal policy for people, for a city to start saying, hey, if you build a new business, you have to have an electric charger, or you have to pre-wire a condo for an electric charger. So it's not a big ordeal if you have a condo or something to put that charger in. Sex is this advantage. One time, I wasn't having sex, but I could have been. I parked overnight at an apartment building, and I woke up in the morning and my car didn't start. And I had to call my mom. But this will not happen. You can park overnight, and I know you seniors are doing it more and more. You can hook up with somebody, stay there overnight at -40, and your car will start in the morning, and you can get out of Dodge. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about something else. Wouldn't it be great to have an oil well? Do you remember Jed Clampett? Some people don't, you know, because people are getting this a long time ago now. He discovered oil. Liquid gold, if you will. I've got a relative, an aunt. My aunt, you're not here, are you? Because she goes to these things. Okay, well, she's got an oil well on her land, and we all hate her for it. Because, you know, she gets a free check, right? Some people get checks for like $20,000 just for living, because they've got oil on their property. Wouldn't it be great to have an oil well in your backyard? I do, and I'll explain why. Listen to me. Wouldn't it be great if you could refine that free oil in your linen closet? I do. Wouldn't it be great if you had a gas pump in your front driveway? I do, because I drive an electric car and I have solar panels on my roof. So for $10,000, I bought my own oil well that will last 30 years and power my electric car for that 30 years or however long it takes. And it doesn't stink, it doesn't make noise, and I don't even know it's there. So that is one of the advantages. Of course, they killed the program, which made it economically viable, but my electricity costs even less than yours does because I have solar panels on the roof, and over the long term, I will save money. So if somebody, all the people in Saskatchewan said, hey, do you want an oil well for $10,000 and it'll power your pickup truck for 30 years, they would all put an oil well in their backyard if you could do it. So I did it. This is my oil well for 30 years. This is my son. That's our solar panels. This is my refinery. It is a inverter. And this is the charger. This is not my charger, but it's an example of a charger. my gas station. So I've got all that. I've got it going pretty good, right? That's the advantage of having an EV. So, the problem is your gas tank is half as big in the wintertime. So you buy a vehicle with twice the range you need, problem solved. And that is it. That is all the problems there is with electric cars in winter. EV myths. Just wanted to take in my clipboard there for a second. Pretty happy with it. EVs start on fire. Well, they don't. They just every time a Tesla starts on fire, which is like 3 or 4 times, it makes the headline news, the national news, because EVs are scary. Well, they're not. The fact is, a person is burned alive in a gas car in the United States every single day. Just a fun fact for you to take to your dreams tonight. This is an electric plane because electric planes are becoming a thing, even 6, 7 passenger planes. This test plane was electric, and it went down into water last summer in August. And both the pilots were fried to a crisp. Because people know that electricity and water don't go together. Fact is, they swam away unharmed because that's the technology. There are safety mechanisms, and it just is not some sort of scary thing. People think you can't be driving a lightning storm in an electric car. That's not true. Not true at all. And it's no more different than driving a gas car in a lightning storm. Well, the Rivian, which is a nice pickup truck, a little pricey, which is coming out soon, it can go in 3 feet of water. Anything more, it actually floats away. That's the only reason why it can't go in more water. So the limit is 3 feet if you're buying a Rivian. You're not going to get electrocuted. It's designed for that. The battery is sealed. So there's the other things too. I won't even get into them. They're not slow. They don't pollute as much as gas. SAS power is 20% less than a gas vehicle. Most people say it's 50%. I don't know who to believe. Probably not SAS power. Here's some tips. So James tips, free. This is charging terminology. Level 1 is your home, your household outlet. Level 2 is the 240, the dryer plug. Level 3 is your public chargers, which transfer a tremendous amount of electricity in a short period of time. Those are called fast chargers, superchargers, DC, fast charging, stuff like that. Heat is far worse. My car had problems in Arizona because they overheated. The battery was damaged from heat. They fixed that problem, but heat is not a problem here. My battery has never got halfway up the heat meter, even on plus 40 days. So, not a problem in Saskatchewan. Think of it as a car that doesn't cool down overnight. Because like I said, it will take 24 hours or more for even my car to have its battery cool down on its own. Or you could think of it as its own built-in block heater. You never have to plug it in. Remember, 100 times fewer moving parts. And like I said, think of it as a Terminator. It is self-preserving, it will not die, it will take care of itself even when we don't. Buy an EV with twice the range, and like I said, I advise to get that 240 voltage start. Sorry. These are what home chargers look like. They're actually not chargers, they're called EV supply units. The charger is actually in the car. And they range in price from $500 to $1,000. Sometimes the cars actually come with them, and that will work both ways. Petro-Canada, Tesla is putting chargers in Regina and Saskatchewan along Trans-Canada, Canadian Tire as well. If you are one of these people who's thinking about buying an EV and came out to hear my talk tonight, don't expect that the EV salesperson will know anything about an EV or want to know anything about it. They're ignorant and they don't want to sell you an EV. Now, there's conspiracy theories out there that they don't want to sell you because the dealership won't make money off of an electric car because you're not bringing in for oil changes and everything else, right? But they just don't want to understand them. And it does take some research to understand what an EV can and cannot do. So go to the internet and kiss your life goodbye for a couple months like I did. Yeah, this is something I do. It is a temptation. This is the torque for an automatic transmission. You can see it peaks at different places. In an electric car, it peaks right at the stoplight at 0. You press the pedal, and your brain crushes the back of your head. You get dizzy and crash into McDonald's. That never happened. Final thoughts. I don't even know what these are. I've forgotten my slides. This should be interesting. I've not read or met anyone who's had an EV now start in winter. Yeah, this is from our group on Facebook, somebody thought, it's not gonna work out. So you think you can't use an electric car for a long-range trip? You can. Fact is, my bladder does not last for 500 kilometers. Maybe I'm an old man. Maybe I'm getting there. I don't think it ever did. So stopping to pee and get a coffee and stretch your legs is something that I do. I do 12-hour trips sometimes in summer vacations going to the States. And if you don't stop every couple of hours or 3 hours, you're gonna go batty. So you don't have to sit there and pump the gas. You just plug it in and you go, and it does it by itself. These are all the Tesla chargers in North America, and you can see they're putting them here. They're also putting one in Davidson, and we're all praying that they put one in Saskatoon soon. Tesla is donating 50 destination chargers to national parks. A destination charger is a place where you charge and leave it for a long period of time. So it's like charging at home at 240 volts. So if you go to a national park, you can charge all day. And so it's going to become a lot more possible. Half the new cars, more than half, I think 60% recently, have a plug-in in Norway. And Norway is cold. In fact, it goes up to the Arctic Circle, if you haven't noticed. Most major countries in the world have actually announced the ban of the sale of combustion engine vehicles by 2040 at the latest. Norway has banned them in 2025. So if you think electric vehicles aren't coming, you haven't been reading the newspaper. They are, because people are going to want to drive in downtowns and big cities around the world. Things may not be like that here in the oil-rich prairies, but in other places in the world, the conversion to electrified transportation is happening. We're looking at 2040, and guess what the Saskatchewan government said? Not to be political, but they said, nope, not possible. Why? Did you read this? It was only in the Toronto Star. And it didn't get picked up because journalism is it's weak right now. It's not the journalist's fault, it's the economics of it all. So the province is saying, no, we're not going to make it 2040. We're calling for more research before committing to a specific sales threshold because Saskatchewan has a unique climate, unique geography, unique economic, and unique social conditions. So I guess they're saying we're cold. That's our climate. We're in old Toronto or Vancouver. It goes down to minus 42 here, right? So electric cars don't work in cold. They haven't seen my presentation yet, to be fair. Geographic, we travel long distances. They don't realize that electric cars travel long distances. 600 kilometers. How many people travel more than 600 kilometers in Saskatchewan? You're going to hit forest pretty quick and not have roads after a while. So, the fact is, in the climate, I will propose that EVs work better than gas in winter. And as far as geography is concerned, well, that's bogus. The economic reasons, I don't know what those are, because electric cars, as you know, are cheaper currently to own than gas cars. And that is only going to become more crazy